Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all. And thank you very much for your presence and association and desire to associate with Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, and specifically Canto 2, Chapter 3, verses 13 to 19, Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Spa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Sarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Sarvashastra Piyusha, Sarva Vedeka Satpala, Sarva Siddhantaratnadya, Sarva Lokai Triprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu, Kalidwando Didaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasha Rayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading one attains transcendental bliss, for your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabandhu Mad Sanghim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadahin atini chochataraka hanamun chakada chinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintly and restore unsaintly, O uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest, my heart and my throat, accompany pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Janmadyasya Yotonvayadi Taratas Charte Swabhigna Swarat, Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya, Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Tisargom Risha, Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kwakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he's the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions of the manifested universes. He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he's independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature appear factual, though they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanal Paisha Sabya Kalavismin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Mutayo Manda Bhagyo Padrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, many but short lies, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narochevam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan. unto Naranarayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yatho bhaktira dokshaje ahaituke pratyata yatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya to Savairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one immediately causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattvavidastatvam yajnanam ed advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Sho Shadananasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsya Vayavipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains opportunity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shrinutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Yardandastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart. And the benefactor of the truthful devotee cleanses desire from material enjoyment. From the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatutama sloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiki. By regular attendance at classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praise or transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Swadharmam Pari Nishtaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic power, by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udari tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desire, full of all material desires, without any material desire, or desire in liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, welcome again. Let's cover some feedback anyone has from last week's session, chapter 3, first 12 verses. If you have any feedback from that you remembered, that caught attention, that you found interesting, please share that. And also, you can even share why do we go over these verses every week, again and again. So you can type and share. And while you are typing, sharing, I will read one of Prabhupada's power statements. In human society, all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of the spirit soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not, in fact. They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society. But one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and the mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. So Prabhupada is highlighting the truth, very bold, very straightforward, that everyone in this world, they're identifying with the gross and subtle bodies, which they're not. And because everyone is identifying with the gross and subtle bodies, everyone's plans, everyone's activities, everyone's thinking, everyone's actions, everyone's endeavors everything that people do is directed towards the gross and subtle material bodies, which means that they are practically directing all their energies in a direction that does not serve them well. And therefore, Prabhupada is saying this is not intelligent. This does not behoove the living entity who is a spiritual nature, who is from a level, from a gradation perspective, a higher form of energy and more powerful in nature, and has an eternal relationship with Krishna. So when one gets conditioned and caught up under the material energy, then one lives a life that is fruitless, that's a waste of time, and a life full of suffering. So if one wants to stop suffering, it's very simple. They need to redirect their energies towards their true nature as the spirit self, spirit soul. And in this way, they can slowly start reviving their original self. And as that happens, automatically, whatever they're currently desiring in terms of happiness and fulfillment, all that becomes automatically fulfilled by reviving one's true nature. And in fact, one gets far more ultimately when one takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. Right. Hamavati and Lenikanta says, Krishna is Purushottam, Supreme Personality of Godhead. We must worship him and not the demigods. Bhakti is the means for all perfection. So, the section that we're covering, last week we covered, Sukadev Goswami is describing people have unlimited desires of different varieties. And in order to fulfill those desires, Krishna, as the Supreme Father, makes arrangements. Krishna, even though he does not, he is heartbroken that we are here separated from him, he still he desires more strongly than us to come back home. At the same time, he wants to fulfill our deviant desires. So he makes arrangements to fulfill our deviant desires and provides all the functionality and facility for that. At the same time, he gives the opportunity to the living entity and directs the living entity to the true nature of eternal service to his lotus feet. So in this way, Krishna provides both facilities according to your desire. And demigod worship is one aspect where Krishna makes the arrangements. You have a certain desire, you can fulfill it. And the beauty of Krishna's system compared to a system that's not given by him, because you can create, just like, for example, you want control. So if you want control, you can achieve control in two ways. One is you can use your power, your abilities, your assets to control people, like force, military force, power, abuse, exploitation, whatever means you can get your hands on, you can use and you can exploit and control people. Like you get, dictators that have been in this world, they would exploit and control people due to the power. So that's one way. The second way is if you want to control over people, then Krishna has given a system of demigod worship where you worship a specific demigod, and by worshiping that specific demigod, you get control and fame and power over people. Now, both desire, or you could say both methods are not conducive for spiritual perfection. But of the two, the one where you try to get your desires fulfilled by Krishna's method is more elevating and purifying. By following that system, you eventually, gradually evolve higher and higher. And if the priest, the Purohit, who is doing this demigod worship, because in every ritual, in every yajna, in every form of demigod worship, there's a priest. Now, if that priest is a pure devotee who is facilitating this for the welfare of society, if you now come to him and says, Pujari, I want to gain control over these countries, I want to perform a yajna, what would you suggest? And then he'll suggest one of the demigod worship karma kanda rituals, and he'll tell you what to do, what to get, etc. So now you're going to get all the ingredients, make arrangements, and then he's going to start the ceremony. Now, because he's a pure devotee, he is on a higher level, and by his association, firstly, you make advancement, and he will slowly start guiding and directing your intentions and helping you to understand things on a higher and higher level, because he is a pure devotee. If somebody is just on a lower level of karma kanda, he can't guide souls higher, but a pure devotee can, and therefore a pure devotee priest will eventually raise one's consciousness higher and higher and higher. And this is how Krishna's made the system. Srimad Bhagavatam is shortcutting that process by just revealing the absolute truth. So we don't need to go through billions and billions of lives of evolution, but if we accept the Bhagavatam, we can immediately get the truth immediately. So, yes, that's why demigod worship is there. And ultimately, Sukadeva Goswami concluded that even if you have material desires, rather worship Krishna directly. Why? Because Krishna can fulfill that material desire and purify you of that material desire. And therefore, it's glorious to worship Krishna. Shamananda who says, amazing how Krishna makes provision to satisfy all types of living entities, doesn't force anyone to choose any particular path. We ultimately decide. Glad that Srila Prabhupada repeatedly explains demigod worship in etc. in his teachings. Everything is clear and no room for doubt and misunderstanding, enabling us to perform devotional service nicely, knowing everyone's position and different relations with Krishna, relation with the Supreme Lord. We all servants in different capacities. Yes. And just as Krishna does not force anyone, we should also not force anyone. We should inspire people. We should direct people. We should inspire people by our preaching, but more so by our example. In this way, we can direct them to the right path. So sometimes we want to like change people, right? Control people and get everyone to be Krishna conscious. But not everyone is ready. And Krishna knows that. Therefore, he doesn't force. And therefore, he provides all the facility for us. Okay, you want to still be separate and live separate and not come to me? Fine. But if you don't want to come to me, then you're going to be in the material world. And if you're in the material world, then it's birth, death, and old age. And if it's birth, death, and old age, then there's all the byproducts of suffering. So you have a choice. The pure devotees may be a little more harsh. And we're going to see in today's purports that harshness, Prabhupada's Like it's Mahabharata says, the pure devotee, their tongue is like a sword, but their heart is like butter. So compassion, they're very compassionate, and they cutting through their words, through the ignorance, so that we can get it. We can get the truth and understand. So the pure devotees, some in that way, they also try to share the truth and give the truth because of the pain they feel. They know the truth. They have a relation with Krishna. They can see Krishna. They're interacting with Krishna. And then on the other hand, they see their own brothers and sisters, parts and parcels of Krishna suffering. And that becomes very traumatic for them. So therefore, they want to do something to help the souls and bring the souls back to the lotus feet of Krishna. Amatu and Nalinikanda says, we go over the verses again and again to memorize, understand, and imprint in our hearts, mind, to practice and remember. Yes. And also to, because the Bhagavatam is Krishna. And even one word of the Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. So if one associates with Krishna in the form of the Bhagavatam, one gets purified. One can associate with one verse. And in this way, we try to regularly recite and remember so that we get purified through that association. Also, by regularly trying to recite and remember, then we trying to remember, and we remember by practice, and slowly by practicing, we may remember. It may take us a while, but at least over time, it starts to sink in. And this can also help us in our future births. We are prepared. Whatever we're doing now is also a preparation for our future service. So this way, somebody may say, well, I don't have much time, but if you extend, your life is eternal. So therefore, whatever time we have, we try to use it in a way that helps us mold our life even for the future services after this life. Thank you very much for everyone's feedback. Let us proceed. So today we're covering verses 13 to 19. And this section, first 13 to 16, Shonaka Rishi glorifies Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami. And then 17 to 19, criticisms of those who do not hear. 13. Shonako Vacha Itya Bhivya Pritam Raja Nishamya Bharatar Shabam Kim Anyat Prishtavan Bhuyo Vaya Shakim Rishim Kavim. Shonaka said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? So after questioning, Maharaj Parikshit questioned Sukadeva Goswami then explained, and now they want to know more. They're curious to know more because they've heard that Maharaj Parikshit was cursed for 7 days. And he was cursed to die within 7 days. So now he's speaking, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to him. And this way they know that there were 7 days. So what was the discussions that were going through those 7 days, 7 nights? So they're curious to know more. Prabhupada in the purport says, a pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities, and some of the prominent features of those qualities are as follows. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrendered to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-control, a balanced eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Out of these 26 prominent features of a devotee as described by Krishna's Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Sukadeva Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet amongst the sages. So that's one of the glorification. Shonaka Rishi is glorifying Sukadeva Goswami's poetic ability amongst all sages. And that's one of the qualities of a devotee. So these 26 qualities of a devotee, as one is slowly progressing on the path of devotional service, on the path of Krishna consciousness, these qualities should become more and more and more prominent. One is that we can cultivate these qualities consciously. Second, we can apply the one quality, which is the 12th quality called Krishna Ekasharana, surrender to Krishna. By cultivating that specific quality, then all the other qualities manifest. So both should be there. We should try to consciously try to cultivate, just like be kind. So we always have an opportunity to cultivate this quality, to practice this quality of kindness, to be kind to people. And even those who are unkind to us, we should still be kind to them. In this way, we are facilitating the development of these qualities. And also by cultivating these qualities, it pleases Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives many of these qualities that are very dear to him. So by cultivating these qualities, we also please Krishna. 14. And maybe just one more point in relation to these qualities. Prabhupada explained that a Vaishnav is a perfect gentleman. And this is when I said about inspiring people. So when we deal properly, when we behave properly, like perfect gentlemen, then naturally this becomes a very powerful, attractive force for people. Can you imagine if if the Hare Krishnas are wild, aggressive, rude, abusive, vulgar. You can have the highest philosophy, but if that's the behavior, then no, sorry, nobody's gonna be attracted. People think I don't want to be like that. So we may have the highest philosophy, but if our behavior does not reflect that highest philosophy, then the shortcoming is not on the philosophy. The shortcoming is our conviction of the philosophy and our practice of that philosophy. And we can always turn to the example of Srila Prabhupada. If there's no other example amidst your association, because some people will say, well, there's no pure devotees. Okay, So if you can't see any pure devotees around you, no problem. I'm sure, everybody would agree that Srila Prabhupada is the pure devotee. So then, if Prabhupada is the pure devotee, then analyze Prabhupada's behavior, how Prabhupada dealt in every situation. And we see these 26 qualities manifesting again and again and again in so many of Srila Prabhupada's interactions with his devotees. And that should be the impetus for us also, if we are followers of Srila Prabhupada, to try to align ourselves to those qualities. It's a high call. Krishna consciousness is not just a affiliation to a society just in terms of external attire, or like Prabhupada would always make this point that yes, Hindu doesn't just mean like a stamp, I'm a Hindu, but your practice shows you're far away from it. So similarly, Hare Krishna doesn't mean I'm stamped Hare Krishna, even though it's good to stamp Hare Krishna on your forehead. But stamping Hare Krishna just is not good enough. We really need to apply ourselves. We really need to live the philosophy. And we can only live the philosophy if we know the philosophy. We will only know the philosophy if we read and associate with Srila Prabhupada's books regularly. Otherwise, we will not know what it means to be a Hare Krishna. So these qualities are very, very important. One, for our own development, and second, even for preaching. Very, very important. 14. Etat shatam vidvan suta no rihashi bashitum katha hari katho darkam satam shu sadashi dhruvam. O learned Sudha Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us because we are eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. So wonderful request. And the request is also giving a wonderful instruction. One is they are eager to hear. So this quality of eagerness, and you'll see this regularly pointed out. We heard about it previously. It's coming up here. It's going to come up again and again. Eagerly to hear. The eagerness to hear Krishna's glories. This is a very, very, very important quality, characteristic feature to cultivate. We want to be eager to hear about Krishna. The more eager we are to hear, the more Krishna notices. And eagerness is also a sign of attachment. Just like somebody who is in love with someone, they're always eager to be in that person's association. They're eager to hear about the person. They're eager to remember the person. They're eager to serve that person. So that eagerness in devotional service is very important. Then the second point which comes up in this verse is when devotees assemble, what do? They hear about the glories of Krishna. They discuss about Krishna. So these two qualities, and it's hand in hand. When we come together, we should be eager to hear about Krishna. We should be eager to discuss about Krishna. So Prabhupada is going to point and expand on this point. As we have already quoted above from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, even mundane things, if dovetailed in the service of the Lord, service of Lord Shri Krishna, are accepted as transcendental. For example, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are epics or histories specifically recommended for the less intelligent class, women, Sudras, and unworthy sons of the higher caste, are also accepted as Vedic literature because they are compiled in connection with the activities of the Lord. The Mahabharata is accepted as the fifth division of the Vedas after its first four divisions, namely Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. The less intelligent do not accept the Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but great sages and authorities accept it as the fifth division of the Vedas. The Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata, and it is full of the Lord's instructions for the less intelligent class of men. Some less intelligent men say that the Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders. But such foolish men forget that the Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjuna, a Grihastha family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a Grihastha. So, first Prabhupada is pointing out in terms of, or is giving an example of the Mahabharata and Ramayana. And the point that Prabhupada is making that if we use even mundane things and dovetail those things in the service of Krishna, then those things become transcendental. And therefore we find Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas coming in line of Rupa Goswami, understanding this principle of Yukta Vairagya, used everything in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada really amplified that, using whatever means to travel, using all facilities, dictaphone, technology, to spread Krishna consciousness. So whatever means was there to help facilitate and propagate Krishna consciousness, they would use that. Naturally, the pure devotees would know how to use modern, or as Prabhupada says, let's say mundane things. So they had the purity and the intelligence to know how to use mundane things without the mundane things using them, controlling them, overpowering them. When the first telephone came out, so like now we can speak to everyone, like cell phone. It's like telephone in your hand. But if you go through the evolution of telephone, so when the first telephone came, because when Prabhupada was present, they would communicate with telegram. You go to the post office, you send a message, it's like a Morse code, and that telegram goes, and then they have to go and pick it up, and so it's a very laborious process. And when the telephone came, the devotees, thought, brilliant, wow, first telephone. They thought, we have to put a telephone in Prabhupada's room. So then they had put a telephone in Prabhupada's room, and the devotees had one telephone. So then the devotees would dial, and Prabhupada would pick up, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Hare Krishna, and the devotees would say, no, Prabhupada, we're just testing the telephone. So this way they would, dial, because they were curious about the technology, but then Prabhupada, told them, this is a botheration, please take it out. So Prabhupada, he used technology, at the same time he could understand the danger. And that only a pure devotee is able to identify, especially in terms of Yukta Vairagya. Another point is, a pure devotee also knows the danger of dovetailing, because if you dovetail something, that means you use something where you attach to that thing, and therefore you're using it. That becomes dangerous. For example, we can use yoga and dovetail yoga in preaching Krishna consciousness. But if I am good at yoga and I'm attached to yoga, and now I read this principle about dovetailing everything in the service of Krishna, and it's transcendental. Wow, that means I can dovetail yoga and teach people yoga, and in this way attract people to become, Krishna conscious. The problem with that is if you are not advanced enough and you still attached to yoga more than you attach to the process of bhakti, then when you start dovetailing your yoga tendencies in attracting people, right, that obstacle will allow you to be deviated because you are more attached to yoga than bhakti. So that also becomes an obstacle, and we have to be very careful. So in this way, it's not that we can just, the license of dovetailing is there, but we have to understand that there are dangers when you just dovetail beyond beyond your potency or beyond your purification. So therefore, we should be very careful. And here Prabhupada is giving the example of Mahabharata and Ramayana. And Prabhupada continues. So the Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of Vedic wisdom, is for beginners in the transcendental science. And Srimad Bhagavatam is for graduates and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literatures like the Mahabharata, the Puranas, and similar other literatures, which are full of the pastimes of the Lord, are all transcendental literatures, and they should be discussed with full confidence in society of great devotees. So even though the Mahabharata has a lot to do with this material world, there are many lessons in the Mahabharata, the Ramayana related to the material world. There's also so many pastimes related to demons in the Mahabharata and Ramayana. And then there's all those aspects related to the Supreme Lord in the Mahabharata and Ramayana. There are many lessons in the Ramayana Mahabharata related to the interaction of the four ashrams, four social orders, four spiritual orders. So somebody may say, yeah, it's very materialistic. But Prabhupada is making the point that because they are connected to the Supreme Lord, they are full of the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, they are all transcendental literatures. And we should discuss them. We should associate and hear. And this was the practice. This was the tradition that was always there. Every evening, people would come together and they would hear from Mahabharata and Ramayana. The difficulty is that such literature, when discussed by professional men, appear to be mundane literature like histories or epics because there are so many historical facts and figures. It is there, therefore, that such literature should be discussed in assembly of devotees. Unless they are discussed by devotees, such literatures cannot be relished by the higher class. So here is an example of let's say, someone who's attached, who's materialistically inclined, and their perspective would be materialistic. So when they pick up Mahabharata Ramayana, they will present it through their perspective. Whereas we want to pick up Mahabharata and Ramayana and see the Mahabharata and Ramayana through the perspective of the Acharyas, through the perspective of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. In this way, it amplifies. In this way, it inspires one's devotional service. So the conclusion is that the Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the supreme person, and he has different activities. He is the leader of all living entities, and he descends at his will and by his personal energy to reclaim the fallen souls. Thus, he plays exactly like the social, political, or religious leaders. Because such roles ultimately culminate in the discussion of topics of the Lord, all such preliminary topics are also transcendental. That is the way of spiritualizing the civic activities of human society. Men have inclination for studying history books and many other mundane literatures, story, fiction, drama, magazine, newspaper, etc. So let such inclinations be dovetailed with the transcendental service of the Lord, and all men will turn to topics relished by all devotees. So Prabhupada is sharing the context because Shonaka Rishi is questioning more about the discussion of Maj Parikshit, who's a king. And this is historical history, historical fact. So why are they so much interested in this king? Why? Because this king is connected to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So therefore, when whatever is connected to Krishna, that we can associate with. That is transcendental, and we can take advantage of that. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he is a dumb stone without any name or form has encouraged people to become godless, faithless demons. And the more they deviate from the transcendent activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to the mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of returning them home back to Godhead. And then there's a note. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the history of the Pandavas with necessary political and social activities, and yet Srimad Bhagavatam is said to be the Paramhamsa Samhita, or the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentals. And it describes Param Jnanam, the highest transcendental knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Paramhamsas, and they are like swans who know the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water. So beautiful example. When you a Paramhamsa swan has the ability to extract milk from a mixture of milk and water. So this is a very apt example that if you take the Mahabharata, you take Ramayana, there are many incidents, there are many facets of life as we discussed, political, social, etc., all discussed in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And yes, they are, like for example, if you take Duryodhana's evil means and exploitative examples, the demons that are destroying Vedic culture, causing harm to the Brahmanas, then the political exploits and intrigues that are there. So all these aspects are not transcendental in themselves. But the pure devotee is able to go into the Mahabharata, into the Ramayana, and extract the milk and leave the water, those aspects which are not relevant behind, and take the essence which is beneficial for progress in spiritual life. And that is why, on another hand, Prabhupada's purports are so relevant, because Prabhupada has done that for us in his Bhaktivedanta purports. He's given us direction, and he's also assimilated and extracted relevant teachings from different sources, different scriptures, different acharyas, and put that for us, so that we don't need to go through that great endeavor of having the ability to then extract, because we may not be qualified to do that. But Prabhupada and the Paramhamsas are. So therefore, they give commentary, because they're able to extract the milk and give us the milk. And Prabhupada is able to give us the milk in a digestible form for us. Because sometimes, the milk may be so powerful for us. Like if you take a tiger's milk, if you put tiger's milk into a clay pot, it cracks the clay pot. It's so powerful. So we may not be able to digest. We find the mother bird will take some food, chew on it, semi-digest that and then feed that to chicks, because that way it becomes digestible. So Prabhupada also, the acharyas, they're able to take the knowledge, digest it, assimilate it, and then give it to us in a presentable form. 15. Savai Bhagavato Raja Pandaveyo Maharata Bala Kridana Kai Kridan Krishna Kridam Yaadade. Maj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. So now they are glorifying Maj Parikshit. In the Bhagavad Gita 641, it is stated that even a person who has failed in the proper discharge of yoga practice is given a chance to take birth in the house of a devout brahmanas, or in the houses of rich men like Kshatriya kings and rich merchants. So I was mentioning about the continuation of our service over lifetimes. So here we see this principle also in everyone's life. Krishna gives the opportunity to those who have not completed their spiritual practice. He gives them an opportunity again in the future lives. And Arjuna asked this question in Bhagavad Gita. What happens to yogis that are practicing, but they either get deviated or they don't complete their perfection? And Lord Krishna says they would appear in two situations. One is in the house of devoted brahmanas, and the other in the house of wealthy Kshatriya kings or merchants. Why? Because if you're born in a pious Brahmanical family, then already the samskaras from birth is there. And if you like Srila Prabhupada as an example, and if you're born in a family of wealthy Kshatriyas, rich merchants, then you don't need to worry about finance. Like, for example, we see Amrish Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, Alfred Ford, born in the Ford dynasty. So in this way, he doesn't need to worry about the wealth, and he can focus his attention on Krishna consciousness. So in this way, Krishna makes arrangements for the souls. But Maj Parikshit was more than that, because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth. And as such, he took his birth in an imperial family of the Kurus, and especially that of the Pandavas. So from the very beginning of his childhood, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Krishna in his own family. The Pandavas, all being devotees of the Lord, certainly venerated family deities in the royal palace for worship. Children who appear in such families, fortunately, generally imitate such worship of the deities, even in the way of childhood play. By the grace of Lord Shri Krishna, he had the chance of being born in a Vaishnava family. And in our childhood, we imitated the worship of Lord Krishna. And in our childhood, we imitated the worship of Lord Krishna by imitating our father. So Prabhupada is also giving the example. When Prabhupada saw his father worshipping the deity, Radha Govinda deities, Prabhupada also said, I also want Radha Krishna Govinda. They also want to worship. So Prabhupada would imitate. This is how Prabhupada also started worshipping deities. So Maj Parikshit was glorious. One, because he was a pure devotee from his previous life. Second, he was born in a prestigious, elevated lineage. And he was born in the family of the Pandavas, who were great devotees. So in this way, he's coming with very powerful samskars in this world, very powerful impressions. The converse can also be true. You can come into this world with very powerful negative baggage. negative samskars. And whether it's positive samskars, negative samskars, or devotional samskars, they will play an important role in the outcome of your current life. Now, some of the impressions we may not be able to completely nullify. Some impressions we can purify. Some impressions will elevate us, and other impressions will degrade us. So in case of Maharaj Parikshit, his samskaras were glorious. Similarly with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada then continues, our father encouraged us in all respect to observe all functions such as the Rath Yatra, the Dol Yatra ceremonies, and he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasad to us children and our friends. Our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspiration from his great Vaishnava father, Thakur Bhaktivinoda. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. So yes, we know it's not luck in essence, but it's Krishna's mercy. And it's glorious and it's fortunate to be in such situation. Thakur, the celebrated Mirabai, was a staunch devotee of Krishna as the great lifter of Govardhan Hill. The life history of many such devotees is almost the same because there is always symmetry between the early lives of all great devotees of the Lord. According to Jiva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit must have heard about the childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna at Vrindavan, for he used to imitate the pastimes with his young playmates. According to Sridhar Swami, Maharaj Parikshit used to imitate the worship of family deity by elderly members. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also confirms the viewpoint of Jiva Goswami. So the glory and the lesson is, if we have children, children imitate their parents. So if the parents are worshipping Radha and Krishna, Gonitai, children will automatically follow suit because they like to imitate. They have a natural inclination to learn through a role model. And the best role model and the most immediate role models which are always there is our parents. So parents have a very important responsibility to be exemplary role models for their dependents. And in this way, they can inspire. And we see the example of Prabhupada, he's giving the example of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj Parikshit. They were all inspired by the role models around them. Children are like sponges, especially in the early stages of their upbringing. They will grab everything around them. So therefore, this cultivation is extremely important. Focusing on hearing and chanting, focusing on worshipping the deities, and slowly children would start to imbibe that. So Maharaj Parikshit, he heard the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and now because they heard that pastime, they start to imitate those pastimes as young playmates. In this regard, what's interesting is Prabhupada discusses this point of bringing up children and raising Krishna conscious children to plane of Krishna's pastimes. And one of our devotee friends, Bharat Chandra Prabhu in India, he's developed the system of Krishna Krida. When Lord Krishna was here 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, Lord Krishna would play 64 category of games. And each of these different categories or types of games, they had different skills involved. So Prabhupada says we can raise children by teaching them these different games of Krishna. One is children love to be educated by playing. So the upbringing and education through playing is extremely very powerful and very beneficial for children. Secondly, because they are learning a game related to Krishna, it is very spiritually nourishing because now they're remembering Krishna. Just like when they're playing a specific game, then the boys will say, no, but Krishna didn't do that. No, but Krishna did this. Oh, but Krishna was counting like this. You're lying, you're cheating. So in this way, they're recollecting how Krishna was playing and they now remembering Krishna in the games. So completely Krishna conscious. Then another aspect of these 64 games, categories and different games Krishna played, was that all the games that Krishna played, they all included all the motive training and facility training of a child to grow up nicely. So for example, if you're growing up children, you know that you need to have different motor skills, reflective skills, all different types of skills you need to have for children to develop. It's not just like one type of skill. So they need to have all these different skills that needs to be developed. So all the games of Krishna in different ways, they basically mold the children completely in all these different types of skills. So this type of upbringing is really what we need to slowly reintroduce into the Krishna conscious societies. And slowly, as Krishna consciousness is still new, and as we evolve over generations, this will slowly come back into the fold, where children are born into a devotee environment and not just a devotee family. They're born into a devotee society, and they are groomed and nurtured amongst a society, a community, a village, not just a family. So accepting either of them, Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his very childhood. He might have imitated either of the above-mentioned activities, and all of them establish his great devotion from his very childhood, a symptom of a Mahabhagat. Such Mahabhagatas are called Nitya Siddhas, or souls liberated from birth. But there are also others who may not be liberated from birth, but to develop a tendency for devotional service by association. And they are called sadhana siddhas. There is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue. And so the conclusion is that everyone can become sadhana siddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by association with pure devotees. Now, Prabhupada is bringing this topic that is under discussion to a very practical point. Someone will say, yeah, you know why Prabhupada is so exalted and so Krishna conscious? Because he was a pure devotee even before birth. See, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was a ray of Vishnu. These are like eternal souls coming from the spiritual world. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Manjari from the spiritual world. You're talking about these great souls. Maharaj Parikshit is a Mahabhagat from past life. Me, I'm a Malecha, rascal. What life I had. So you can't compare us being Krishna conscious and these souls being Krishna conscious. It doesn't work. No. Therefore, Prabhupada is bringing it now to ground level to say, yes, these are Mahabhagats. These are liberated souls from past lives. But when they come into this world, they don't come into this world in a Vaikuntha aeroplane. They come into this world in the exact way you came into this world. Their birth in this world was also like our birth in this world. They go through the same experiences of what this world presents in the way that we have we go through this, in how we come into this world and go through. And how they respond to those events and activities is the lessons to us that we need to imbibe. Then Prabhupada makes the point that yes, they special souls, but we can also become pure, perfectly pure, by following the examples and simply by the association of the pure devotees. If we associate with pure devotees, in that association, we get purified, we are guided, and we can then practice and perfect our life. So that opportunity is also there, which means to be born in the material world and having a background that is a baggage, that has bad samskars, bad impressions, born in a bad family, born in a bad society, bad country, everything bad, does not disqualify one from perfection. Then Prabhupada gives an example. The concrete example in our great spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni, is our great spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni. In his previous life, he was simply a boy of a maidservant. But through association with great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord, of his own standard, unique in the history of devotional service. And another example, classic example, is Prabhupada going to the West. Prabhupada going to the West and giving association to the hippies. Even though they were born in families that, and especially in America, where there's no real Vedic culture, and then they took to a hippie culture, sex, drug, rock and roll. Prabhupada, by Prabhupada's pure association, he was able to transform them and allow them to give up all those bad habits and take to the path of Krishna consciousness. So that is available to everyone through association of pure devotees. And there are so many other examples of rogues, ruffians, Jagai and Madais that had the association of pure devotees and were able to transform. Now someone may say, well, but Prabhupada, I don't have pure association. Everyone around me is not pure enough, or they're not pure. No problem. Prabhupada's books are there. Prabhupada is there in his books. His instructions are not different from him. So by regularly associating with Prabhupada's books, his audios, his videos, you can get that association. And as you evolve in your own advancement, then you'll also be able to recognize others around you who may not be perfectly pure, but the intention may be pure. Certain practices may be pure. And even though they may have certain shortcomings, but if their intention, their focus, their path, their sincerity is to serve Srila Prabhupada and follow Srila Prabhupada, then Prabhupada says it's only a question of time. Everyone is pure, but it's only a question of time. Just like a green mango and a ripe mango. They're mangoes, but it's only a question of time that a green mango becomes ripe. So everyone on the path of Krishna consciousness is pure, only time is separating them. So the conclusion is we all have the opportunity to become sadhana siddha, to become perfect. And that is based on the association with pure devotees. Devotees, when they come together, what do? They hear and glorify Krishna. So that's the association we want to create. We want to offer. Whenever 1, 2, 3 more devotees come together, always try to keep the focus on Krishna. 16. Vaya Saki Vaya Sakischa Bhagavan Vasudeva Para Yana Urugaya Guna Dara Satam Shurhi Samagame. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, was also full in transcendental knowledge and was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, son of Vasudeva. So there must have been discussion of Lord Krishna, who is glorified by great philosophies and in the company of great devotees. So they glorified Maharaj Parikshit, now they're glorifying Sukadeva Goswami, who was full in transcendental knowledge and also great devotee. So these two great devotees have come together. Definitely they must have been talking about Krishna for the duration that they were together. So please tell us what they were talking about. Because when great souls come together, pure devotees come together, there's an explosion of Krishna consciousness. So we want to know, we want to also bathe in that explosion of Krishna consciousness. The word satam is very important in this verse. Satam means the pure devotees who have no other desire than to serve the Lord. So very nice definition of a pure devotee. No other desire than to serve the Lord. In the world, people's desire to serve their own desires, to serve their own motive. And sometimes even when we come to the spiritual, when we come into spiritual arena, we meant to serve Krishna, but by serving Krishna, we still have the desire to serve our senses. A pure devotee, he is 100% focused on simply fulfilling the desire of and the pleasure of serving the desire and the sense of Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. Only in the association of such devotees are the transcendental glories of Lord Krishna properly discussed. It is said by the Lord that his topics are all full of spiritual significance. And once one properly hears about him in the association of the Satam, certainly one senses the great potency and so automatically attains to the devotional stage of life. So this is what happens. The hippies, those that came in the association of Srila Prabhupada, somebody invited, hey, come, there's a Swami from India, 26nd every day, let's go. So then they come. And just by hearing the glories of Krishna narrated by the pure devotee that enters into their ears, goes into the heart, purifies them, transforms them. This is the power, this is the potency. So if we want to be more effective in helping souls, in helping spread Krishna consciousness, then we need to intensify and increase our purity. As already described, Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord from his very birth, and so was Sukadeva Goswami. Both of them were on the same level, although it appears that Maharaj Parikshit was a great king accustomed to royal facilities, where Sukadeva Goswami was a typical renouncer of the world, so much so that he did not even put a cloth on his body. Superficially, Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami might seem to be opposites, but basically they were both unalloyed pure devotees of the Lord. When such devotees assemble together, there can be no topic save discussions of the glories of the Lord of Bhakti Yoga. If we externally just see, that's the case. Maharaj Parikshit, a king, Sukadeva Goswami, great renunciate. And we know from the pastimes of Lord Krishna that Sukadeva Goswami was the parrot of Radhavani. That Lord Krishna said, you need to stay because we have service for you. And similarly, Maharaj Parikshit, he's a Mahabhagavat coming from the past to perform this pastime, to be in this world, so that these two Mahabhagavats could meet according to the history or the circumstance, the direction, the drama that Krishna as a director had scripted, and they meet. And now when they meet, they're going to speak about the glories of Krishna. And that is how we are fortunate to have this history, to have the glories of Krishna, and in turn purify our lives by their mercy and by the mercy of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita also, when there were talks between the Lord and his devotees, or devotee Arjuna, there could not be any topic other than Bhakti Yoga. However, the mundane scholars may speculate on it on their own ways. The use of the word cha after Vaya Sakhi suggests, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, that both Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit were of the same category, settled long before, although one was playing the part of a master and the other the disciple. Since Lord Krishna is the center of the topic, the word Vasudeva Parayana, or devotee of Vasudeva, suggests devotees of Lord Krishna, the common aim. Although there were many others who assembled at the place where Maharaj Parikshit was fasting, the natural conclusion is that there was no other topic than the glorification of Lord Krishna, because the principal speaker was Sukadeva Goswami and the chief audience was Maharaj Parikshit. So Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was spoken and heard by two principal devotees of the Lord, is only the glorification of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam holds a very, very important position as the Amala Puran, Grantaraj, the king of all scriptures, in the Gaudiya Vaishnav lineage. Srila Mahaprabhu, he came to this world, and the philosophy that Srila Mahaprabhu founded was Srimad Bhagavatam, which focuses 100% on the glories of Lord Krishna. So the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, even though the Bhagavatam is covering different historical events, even though Srimad Bhagavatam is covering different historical incarnations, they all have one purpose and one purpose only. And that is the glorification of the Supreme Lord. So we can use any aspect of the mundane world, of the spiritual world, to glorify Krishna. And this is the focus of devotees. They put Krishna in the center and they glorify Krishna. 17. So now we heard the glories of Maharaj Parikshit, the glories of Sukadeva Goswami, these two devotees coming. When devotees come together, what do? They only hear about Krishna and glorify Krishna. Now the topic or the verses are going to change to hearing about Krishna. So text 17. Ayur harati vaipumsam udyan astam chayan aso tashyarte yat shano nita uttamasloke vartaya. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. It's the reality that faces everyone. This verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. So this point has come up again and again. What is the perfection of human life? What's the role of human life, the purpose of human life? And the purpose of human life is to realize our lost relationship. It's a lost relationship. It's not a new relationship. It's not something added to your life. No, it's there. It just needs to be awakened, realized. And how do you do that? By devotional service. Why? Because that's the most powerful, accelerated process. And of all the process of devotional service, which is the most powerful, you can type that in the chat, which is the most powerful process in devotional service to revive or realize our lost relationship with Krishna? Let's see if we got, how many of you get that right? Human form of life, the best, or the purpose of human form of life is to realize our lost relationship. We do that by accelerated devotional service. And of all the devotional service, 9 different process of devotional service, the best process is so Amavati Radhika says chanting, Harini Devidas says hearing, Mother Lesh says hearing. Any others? So there's Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu Smaran, Padasevan, Archanam, Bandam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanevedanam. Hearing and chanting. Any others? Another few more. So let me give a hint. Chanting. Right. Now we're getting a little closer. So the first one, chanting, no, it's not chanting. Hearing? No, it's not hearing. Mother Lesh also said hearing. No, it's not hearing. Sukadeva Goswami said hearing and chanting. No, it's not hearing and chanting. Now we're getting closer. Hemavati and Nalini Kanta says, remembering Krishna and never forgetting. So it's not just chanting, because even the birds are chanting. It's not just hearing, because everybody is hearing. We must qualify. It's chanting the glories of Krishna. It's hearing the glories of Krishna. Do not forget that. Okay? Because somebody say, I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm chanting. But what's the subject? Bollywood. So it's hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. As Prabhupada said in the previous verse, why is this association of Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit key? Why is the Srimad Bhagavatam key? Because the center focus is Krishna. So hearing and chanting about the glories of Krishna. Then Prabhupada continues. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Human life is awarded to a living entity, Jiva, simply so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. Such a powerful, that one sentence. Human life is awarded to a living entity, Jiva, simply so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. Human life is awarded. It's a gift. It's a valuable gift. So the fact that we have a human form of life, we should be grateful to Krishna. It's also rare to get this human form. It's very valuable because in this human form of life, we have a great capacity to think, to discriminate. It is only in the human form of life that we are able to realize the Supreme Lord. Simply so we can realize our spiritual identity. So we're not human beings. We're not male or female. But we are given this human form of life due to our conditioning, due to our deviant desires to lord it over material nature. We are given this human form of life as an opportunity to realize our true identity and permanent source of happiness. So the material world is not the right source of happiness. It's not a place for any form of happiness that the living entity desires, but the human form definitely provides the opportunity to find that true source, to find that permanent source. Once you get that permanent source of happiness, your life will be perfect and sublime. So that's the purpose of human life. If we do not use the human form of life for that, we are unfortunately wasting valuable time. A living being, especially a human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. So when people seek for happiness, when people are endeavoring in so many different ways to become happy, it's not wrong. It's not like they're doing something that is deviant. No, it is perfectly fine, perfectly in line. Why? Because they are pleasure seeking. The living entity is pleasure seeking. Ananda Vyasat. Why is he pleasure seeking? Because the supreme spirit soul is also Ananda Vyasat, also pleasure seeking. Therefore, it's natural for the living entity pleasure seeking, but he's seeking for pleasure in the wrong place. Robert continues. A living being, especially human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity, but he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. The Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. So if we associate with Krishna, we will revive our relationship with Krishna. And because Krishna is non-different from his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality, then if we associate with all these aspects, which are identical with him, we revive our relationship. And therefore, we see in the Bhagavatam, the name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality of Krishna is described. And thus Bhagavatam is very, very conducive and important for us. And we should try to use as much time as possible to hear and chant from the Bhagavatam. Once a person comes into contact with any one of the above mentioned energies of the Lord through the proper channels of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. So guess what has happened to all of us? The door to perfection is open for all of us. And Madri has added, and the back door. Why? Because Prabhupada has the back door key. So for us, we have the front door and the back door all open. We have the spiritual world is, like open arms waiting for us. Now the doors are open. So if the doors are open, back and front, will you go into the house? Or let's put it this way. If the doors are open, are you in the house? No. The doors are open. So what does that mean? You need to walk. You need to take the steps and move in the direction of the open back door and front door and move in. So the door to the spiritual world is open. Now it behooves us to take the effort to walk in the direction of the open doors. It's not going to be automatic in the sense that if you do not cultivate to endeavor, it's not going to happen. We need to put the effort and the endeavor and move in the direction of the open doors. In the Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord has explained such contact in the following words. Endeavor Endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. Even a slight beginning of such activities is sufficient to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. Oral realization of the transcendental messages implies total realization, just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. This realization for a moment in the association of pure devotees like Sukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity. And thus, the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, inasmuch as he is constantly busy in devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. We should have firm faith that simply by hearing Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, we are achieving what Prabhupada is saying here. Prabhupada's purports are his personal ecstasies. Prabhupada says the best part of me is in my purports. The purports are non-different from Prabhupada. So by hearing from Srila Prabhupada as the pure representative of Krishna, the glories of Krishna is going into our ears and it's doing its magic. We may not immediately realize the magic, but over time, we will see this fructification. All realization of the transcendent message implies total realization. As we hear and we start to realize, yeah, Prabhupada is right, Prabhupada is speaking wise words. This is true. Yes, Krishna is God. Yes, you start to chant, you start to practice. Slowly, this is in the right direction. We simply have to constantly continue to hear. So we do the hearing process. Krishna in the heart, Cheto Darpanam, does the cleansing process. Our lives become purified and slowly revelation begins. We will start to realize more and more about Krishna. It can be instant, but it's generally gradual, depending on each individual. In most cases, it's a gradual process because we have cultivated such distance from the Supreme Lord, such forgetfulness from the Supreme Lord. So therefore, it will take some time. But the potency is there. The power is there. The process is there. Simply to hear attentively, pay oral reception, submissive oral reception. And if we do this, then we are using our time valuably. Then the sun is not going to rob us because like now, the sun has risen early in the morning today and is now setting, and one day has passed, and another day will pass, and another day will pass. And in this way, your life, month 1, month 2, year 1, year 2, and your life will pass. And then you're going to take birth again. So in this way, instead of wasting our time focusing on activities which are non-conducive to our Krishna consciousness, we want to use our time valuably. Any activity that facilitates our hearing and chanting, that is valuable time spent. Or that is time spent valuably. And the sun is not robbing us of that time. So we always want to be conscientious of where are we spending our time, on what are we spending our time. The material world, material energy will always distract our attention. It's designed for distraction. And because it's designed for distraction, the result is always destruction. We want to be aware of the distraction and focus our attention on the glories of devotional service, glories of chanting and hearing, the glories of the Bhagavatam, and use our time for that, hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. For example, we have to take rest. So resting is not wasting time, but I'm resting only so that I can rejuvenate my body to hear about Krishna. Taking prasad is not a waste of time, but I only want to consume Krishna prasad to give nourishment to the body so that I can hear the glories of Krishna. So every endeavor, every activity that we do, we should analyze. Is this endeavor or activity helping my Krishna consciousness? I'm watching some movies. Are these movies enhancing my Krishna consciousness, or are they destroying and dampening my Krishna consciousness? I have some friends. Are these friends helping my Krishna consciousness or dampening my Krishna consciousness? I have some activity. Is that activity helping my Krishna consciousness or dampening my Krishna consciousness? So in this way, we should be gauging, where is our time going? Death is a symptom of the material infection of the eternal living being. So here's another definition of death. Somebody says, what is death? You must tell them it's a symptom of the material infection. It's like COVID. So death is a material infection of the eternal living being. You are eternal, and you have a material infection. And what is the symptom of that material infection? How do we know that you're sick? How do we know that the eternal living entity is now ill, spiritually ill? Because the symptom of death is there, which implies that a pure devotee who's eternally with Krishna is spiritually healthy, therefore he does not have a material infection, and therefore he does not die. So death is simply a symptom of the disease. Only due to material infection is the eternal living entity subjected to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. So if we can, and Prabhupada is giving us that solution, so that birth, death, disease, or you could say the material infection can be cured. And once the material infection is cured, birth, death, disease, and old age is cured. The materialistic way of pious activities like charity is recommended in the Smriti Shastra as quoted by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Money given in charity to a suitable person is guaranteed bank balance in the next life. Such charity is recommended to be given to a Brahmana. If money is given in charity to a non-Brahmana without Brahmanical qualification, the money is returned in the next life in the same proportion. Note, right? Note, it's the same proportion. Now, if money is given to a half-educated Brahmana, even then the money is returned doubled. So the return on investment is greater as the qualification of a Brahmana is greater. If a Brahmana is not qualified, the charity you give, you get. If a Brahmana is even just half qualified, you give, you get double. Prabhupada continues, if the money is given in charity to a learned and fully qualified Brahmana, the money is returned 100 and 1,000 times. And if the money is given to a Veda Parga, one who has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. Now, someone may say, why is this relevant to us? And how is this relevant to us? And what does this, how does this help us now in our Krishna consciousness? So please share in the chat, how is this relevant to me as a Hare Krishna devotee? One. And how is this relevant to helping me right now in my present situation? Please share that in the chat. In terms of giving charity, especially in relation to the last point, if money is given to a Veda Parga, one who has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. So how is this relevant? Anybody wants to share, you can unmute and share. Any takers? So Hemavati and Nalini Kanta says, we should give charity to our sannyasis and ISKCON. Good. Mother Les says, donation charity are done in the right way. The use of this funds benefit all. Good. One more. So remember, the question was, how is it relevant to us in terms of the principle of giving in charity? And how does it impact us now? Because here it's explained that if I give in charity, then when am I getting the charity next life? So I'm interested in the charity now. So how is that going to help me? I can't get the money, but can I get anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please share your wisdom.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'd like to give one nice pastime of Prabhupada.
Please.
In Vrindavan, Prabhupada was giving a lecture somewhere, and there was this personality who was excited by the purity of Prabhupada. And immediately she gave a check of about 15,000 rupees. And that was her donation or charity in the mode of pure goodness.
Yes.
And when her time was up to pass on, her son went to the temple president and said, that my mom is about to pass on. And we have a picture of Radha Shamsundar, and they looked everywhere, they couldn't find. And after some searching, eventually they found the photo of Shamsundar, and it was put in front of her, and she passed on meditating on this beautiful form of the Lord, and very peacefully. And so the devotee, the temple president went back to check whether it was really true that this personality gave that donation, charity. When he went to the archives, there it was Prabhupada acknowledged the donation and gave a receipt. And at the end of her life, Prabhupada did not forget her by this donation. She went back to God by this wonderful arrangement.
Yes.
Just by this one small token of charity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And the devotee that shared that said that when they went to the temple, And when they went to the boutique, there was no, for some reason in that day, there was no picture of Krishna in the boutique, the gift shop, which generally doesn't happen.
Yes.
You know, and then they even went to the temple president's house, and even he couldn't find, you know, a picture. And eventually, the only picture they found was of Radha Shamsundar. So Krishna made arrangements, Prabhupada made arrangements. So yes, so let's I'm just going to read your responses. So Shamanan Prabhu says, we're trying to bring Lakshmi to Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, knowing that person's contribute will be ultimately unlimitedly benefit. Good. Mother Les says it also benefits us because we might take lifetimes to get to Krishna. Do we getting a good birth to progress in Krishna consciousness? Sharina says Krishna's instructions from Bhagavad Gita, giving in charity, we need to act in ways that align to Krishna's instructions as it goes to our eternal credit. Good. And Mavatin Linikanta says it helps us advance on our journey in Krishna consciousness to the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. In the next birth, we get a good birth. Mother Les says, yes. Achana Siddhi says, for everyone to get the benefit of contributing to Krishna consciousness. Good. So, if we give in charity and to different people, we get different results. If we give in charity to Srila Prabhupada and his mission, and we use Lakshmi in the mission of Srila Prabhupada, we get unlimited multiplication. Ram King Prabhu shared the pastime, wonderful pastime of this pious lady inspired by Srila Prabhupada's purity and giving a contribution, but not necessarily practicing herself. But the benefit of that, what to talk about next life, it even came in this life. So that's the beauty and the power and the potency of giving to a pure devotee and his mission, especially of Krishna consciousness. Why? Because this mission is of Lord Chaitanya's mission. It's God's mission. So yes, you can give to any other charity out there, but every charity that's out there that's not connected to Lord Chaitanya's mission, then that allows you to get some pious credits, welfare work credits. But by you giving service, especially monetary value, monetary contribution to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, that gives you devotional, eternal spiritual credits. Now, if we just look at the monetary side, besides the spiritual benefit, as you all mentioned, if I give in charity now to Krishna consciousness, to Prabhupada's mission, I'm getting unlimited in the future. That means that if I use my wealth for the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and specifically for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada's desire, because he is the Veda Parga, he is the factual realized person who has realized the path of the Vedas. He's giving us the truth. So if we use it in his service, then I have absolutely no financial problem in the future. That means that even if I don't make it back to Godhead, I am guaranteed, rest assured that my future is not going to be in poverty. That means I don't need to worry about my future finance next life. And if I don't need to worry about my future finance, then that means that I have less anxiety now. Because many people are worried if they know about reincarnation, that I'm going to come back. They're worried about, well, what if I come back in a worse situation? For us, there is no worse situation, because I'm getting unlimited multiplication. So therefore, rest assured, I don't need to worry about money. Next slide. Hallelujah. Okay, we already heard that if I'm hearing and chanting, then Krishna will make the arrangement that I will be able to continue that hearing and chanting. And which means that if I take birth again, I will be taking birth again where the culture of hearing and chanting is right from beginning. In fact, my mother will be chanting Brahma Samhita and Krishna consciousness and hearing Krishna book right in the womb, when I'm in the womb of my mother. So how fortunate. So that means as a devotee, I do not need to worry about my future births. They will be auspiciously glorious. Therefore, I have less anxiety of future. Why? Because I simply focus on being Krishna conscious and trying to use all my resources in the best Krishna conscious way possible. So we should not feel that giving donation or serving the mission financially is a burden. Serving the mission financially is benefiting us and is benefiting the mission. So we want to give all our assets, time, money, all the resources that we have, our life, our heart, our mind, body, words. We want to give all that in Krishna's service. If here the example is just of charity, but if you consider giving all your resources, which inverted commas is not even your resources, it's Krishna's resources. So all you're doing is giving Krishna his rightful resources in his mission, and you getting the benefits of more resources. And in this way, we simply continue serving Krishna. Krishna is getting benefited, and we're getting benefited. The ultimate end of Vedic knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedescha sarvam aham eva vedyo. There is a guarantee of monies being returned if given in charity, regardless of proportion. Similarly, a moment passed in the association of a pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental messages of the Lord is a perfect guarantee for eternal life, for returning home back to Godhead. So here is Prabhupada's blessing to all of us. This is what we should do. Simply pass our time in the association of pure devotees, hearing and chanting the transcendental message of the Lord. That is all. And if we can regularly do this, even by hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures, videos, reading his books, then our life is perfect. Maddama katva punar janma navidyate. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is guaranteed eternal life. A devotee's old age or disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life. Now Prabhupada gives us another practical view of the reality that yes, it may not be always possible because of old age and disease. I may get diseased and it becomes very difficult. I get sick and I can't hear and chant. So when I'm in that situation of old age and disease, and it becomes very difficult to hear and chant, I should try my best to hear and chant. That's the first point. Secondly, is I may not always be diseased. Health goes up and down. So when I'm healthy, I should take full advantage of hearing and chanting, because that will then mold my consciousness so that when I'm diseased and I'm down, I may not be able to hear and chant, but my mind will be hearing and chanting. So in this way, I'm molding my life when I have the opportunity. Like now, for example, we have the opportunity. We're in good health. We're all hearing and chanting. And this is what we should be doing. Striving more and more, not just once a week, but regularly. Ultimately, 24 hours a day, molding our life. If a moment is so precious, if a moment is so valuable, then what to talk about regularly? What to talk about constantly? What to talk about 24 hours a day, hearing and chanting? If a moment is guaranteeing us perfect life, then constantly means, no doubt, even more guarantee. Like in the spiritual world, Krishna, in Dwarka, Krishna is beautiful. Then in Mathura, Krishna is beautiful. In Dwarka, Krishna is more beautiful. In Vrindavan, Krishna is most beautiful. So moments association, past hearing and chanting, is guaranteed perfection. Constant hearing and chanting is more guaranteed. 24 hours hearing and chanting is most guaranteed. So just higher level of guarantee. And hearing and chanting is wonderful. So we should cultivate this habit of hearing and chanting. 18. Tarava kim na jivanti, Bashtra kim na swashantyata, na kandantis na mehanti, kim gramye pashavo parave. Do the trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? So now, for those who didn't get the message when it was presented nicely, now the sword is coming out. Now the whoop is coming out. Prabhupada says, both Maya and Krishna, they teach the same lesson. Both the pure devotee and Maya, they teach the same lesson. Krishna and the pure devotees will come and say, please come back home. Krishna will say, please come back home. Pure devotee will say, please surrender to Krishna. Please chant Hare Krishna. Please hear the glories of Krishna. Please serve Krishna humbly, with straw in the teeth. And Maya, she will boot you. She will give you kicks and kick you to surrender to Krishna. So you have two choices. One is to accept the humble plea, or you can have the booting. So here we've already heard the humble plea. And now the booting starts. Now the booting is coming. The materialistic man of modern age will argue that life, or part of it, is never meant for the discussion of theological or for theosophical or theological arguments. Life is meant for the maximum duration of existence, for eating, drinking, sexual intercourse, making merry, and enjoying life. So now Prabhupada is sharpening our preaching skills and giving an argument. If you go tell people, please glorify Krishna, what nonsense, man. Life is meant to enjoy. Don't come with your nonsense now. So if somebody gives that, then here's then all argument. Modern man wants to live forever by advancement of material science. And there are many foolish theories for prolonging life to the maximum duration. But Srimad Bhagavatam affirms that life is not meant for so-called economic development or advancement of materialistic science, for the hedonistic philosophy of eating, mating, drinking, and merrymaking. Life is solely meant for tapasya, for purifying one's existence, so that one may enter into eternal life just after the end of the human form of life. So there's two sides. One is try to live as long as you want so you can eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And the other is, no, it's a life of purification, life of going back home, back to Godhead. The materialists want to prolong life as much as possible because they have no information of the next life. So this is the first issue. That is why they also took out reincarnation from the Bible. Because if I take out the whole aspect of reincarnation from scripture, and this is the only life I got, and you see many people say, oh, there's only one life. And if it is only one life, make best use of it. So this is the doctrination, the brainwashing that has been there. So they took out reincarnation out of the Bible, which means now you only got one life. Whereas you find in the Vedas and all authentic systems of religion clearly mentions reincarnation. So not only one life. Why? Because you are eternal. So if you are eternal, you're going to have reincarnation. You're going to come back. They want to get the maximum comforts in this present life because they think conclusively that there is no life after death. If there is life after death, now you're going to be considering that situation. Because now, if there's life after death, well, then how do I get my next life? What happens in my next life? Can I go high or low in my next life? See, then the consideration of karma and my actions that dictate my next life become relevant. So that means whatever I do now is going to dictate my future. Oh, then I better behave. I better do something that's going to give me a good life. If I'm investing in monthly premiums now, I can benefit from the policy when something happens. If I don't have any premium investment in insurance, I can't benefit from the insurance policy. So if I do, according to my activities, my premium activities now, I'm going to benefit from my insurance in my next life. This ignorance about the eternity of the living being and the change of covering in the material world has played havoc in the structure of modern human society. Consequently, there are many problems multiplied by various plans of modernized man. The plans of solving the problems of society have only aggravated the troubles. If it is possible to prolong life more than 100 years, advancement of human civilization does not necessarily follow. The Bhagavatam says that certain trees live for hundreds and thousands of years. At Vrindavan, there is a tamarind tree. The place is known as Imlitau, which is said to have existed since the time of Lord Krishna. In Calcutta Botanical Garden, there is a banyan tree said to be older than 5,000 years. And there are many such trees all over the world. Swami Shankaracharya lived only 32 years, and Lord Chaitanya lived 48 years. Does it mean that the prolonged life of above mentioned trees are more important than the life of Sankara or Chaitanya? Prolonged life without spiritual value is not very important. One may doubt that trees have life because they do not breathe. But modern scientists like Bose have already proved that there is life in plants. So breathing is no sign of actual life. In fact, now with scientific technological advancement, science now has proven that plants communicate. They talk to each other. Okay, so we have effects of, we know that plants are living, they can hear, because music affects different plants, and that's proven scientifically. We know that words impact plants. We know that plants speak, and they're even now able to decipher so the plants, just, we don't want to go into the details. The language that plants speak with, they can communicate with each other through scent, giving off certain scent. Certain chemical reactions happen and certain scents are released. And the scientists are now able to detect this chemistry of the chemicals, or and analyze that, and then they're able to even emulate that. So in this way, it's interesting how they also begin to realize that, yes, there's life in plants, as Prabhupada is making the point. The Bhagavatam says that the bellows of blacksmith breathes very soundly, but that does not mean that the bellows has life. The materialists will argue that life in the tree and life in the man cannot be compared, because tree cannot enjoy life by eating palatable dishes or by enjoying sexual intercourse. So Prabhupada is giving an argument that will give, and then in relation to the argument, the example of extending life and making the point that trees have great duration of life doesn't mean the value of life is greater. But their point is, well, you can't use trees as an example comparing it to us, because we are conscious, we can enjoy, we can have good life. A tree is so limited in its ability to enjoy. So then the Bhagavatam gives the example in reply to this. The Bhagavatam asks whether other animals like the hogs and dogs living in the same village of human beings do not eat and enjoy sex life. So yes, duration of life, like trees are living long, doesn't mean that's glorious. So extending life doesn't mean glorious life. Now, even hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, which is going to be brought up now, here, hogs and dogs, they also eat and enjoy, and their life is not glorious. The specific utterance of Srimad Bhagavatam in regard to other animals means that persons who are simply engaged in planning a better type of animal life consisting of eating, breathing, and mating are also animals in the shape of human beings. A society of such polished animals cannot benefit suffering humanity, for an animal can easily harm another animal but rarely do good. So as we mentioned, and now we're getting the cutting side of the Bhagavatam, of the pure devotees. The tongue is like a razor, but their heart is like butter, compassionate. And sometimes the doctor has to say the truth, that yes, you got cancer. Yes, you have the disease. Yes, you're not following a good diet. So harshness is required to cut through the illusion that may be there. 19. Swavidvara hostra karai samstuta purusha pashu nayat karna pato peto jatu nama gada garja. Men who are like hogs, men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. And Prabhupada is going to speak about each of these animals, and how we should not follow the examples of these animals. The general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life in spiritual values, are no better than animals. And in this verse, they are particularly being put on the levels of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Now, we do have a trained system of education, or trained systematic form of education. Our schooling system is systematic, and it's there for training. But the schooling system, which is there for training systematically, may not provide a higher standard of life in spiritual values, a higher standard of education in spiritual values. So they're providing skills lacking spiritual values. And we see this intentionally done in India. When the British took over India, they removed all the spiritual values that was there in the education system through Mahabharata and Ramayana. In the education system, Ramayana and Mahabharata was there because within Ramayana and Mahabharata are the spiritual values, high spiritual standards. But they removed that. And now we see currently in India, slowly the introduction of Ramayana and Mahabharata in the syllabus. Why? Because that's adding the spiritual values. So yes, due to the lack of Mahabhagavats governing society, we have demons governing society. We have godless people governing society. We have those that want to exploit society governing society. So therefore, they're going to direct their education with that in mind. Whereas the Mahabhagavats will direct education with high spiritual values in mind. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept a position of service to a greater master. So this is what our education has done. If you see, ask everyone, what's the goal of the education? Well, I got my education, then I get my degree, then I get a job, and then I work for master. And nobody even thinks it's wrong. Nobody even thinks that this is disastrous. Everybody just thinks this is normal. No, it's not normal. It's a very artificial form of existence. Now, this form of existence is intentionally designed. You have been brainwashed to follow a intentionally designed educational system to achieve this. After finishing the so-called education, the so-called educated persons move like dogs from door to door with applications for some service, and mostly they are driven away, informed of no vacancy, as dogs are negligible animals and serve master faithfully for bits of bread. A man serves a master faithfully without sufficient rewards. You can ask people, and I'm sure many of you may be working. If they have to ask you, do you think your boss is paying you good enough? Is he paying you optimal or more than optimal salary, like a salary that you're very happy with? And what you're going to tell me? Hell no. So here's the reality. That means we are like dogs. We're forced, like dogs, to go door to door and find a servant, find a master. And that master will give us bits of bread And we faithfully serve that master. But that master is just giving us little rewards. He's taking all the rewards and giving a little reward. Therefore, people have become dogs. And you find many people, and we're not talking about those who are educated in the Bhagavad philosophy. Just people in modern circles, they realize this. And those who realize this, they will make an intentional change in direction to say, I don't want to become the dog. I would rather be the master, but I don't want to become the dog. So I don't want to become the dog, which means I don't want to be the servant and the slave. I'd rather become the master. So what they do, they become entrepreneurs. Then you'll find there are those who are spiritually inclined, and they will want to become entrepreneurs or have a business that generates wealth so that they don't become slaves. At the same time, they don't want to exploit people also. For us, at this point, we should understand that just living like a dog, being faithful, but getting crumbs as a reward is not the best. And yes, we make the best use of a bad bargain, but then we bring in a higher purpose to life in that situation. And that situation can also then change. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to dogs. Sorry, compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stool. So stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatables for a particular type of animal or bird. So how are human beings compared to hogs? Because they eat junk. They eat anything and everything. They eat rubbish. Whereas there are those who have higher spiritual values. And they know, they realize that you can't just eat anything. You can't just eat rubbish. Why? Because firstly, it's going to impact this body. It's going to be toxic to the body. It's going to be toxic to the consciousness. Then there are those who are more evolved. You can't eat rubbish or stool, or you can't even eat decomposed matter, carcasses. Because that's not a sign of compassion. That's not a sign of kindness. That's not a sign of cleanliness. And then you got those who are even have higher spiritual values, like the devotees. We only eat, or you could have one more level, let's say one more level. Those who are vegetarians. And you have a higher level to say, yes, we only eat those foodstuffs offered for the pleasure of Krishna. So we don't want to be like the hogs. But human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and sugar, etc. Animal food is meant for the animal food is not meant for the human being. For chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. See, so the advanced scientists, the atheistic scientists say, oh, don't worry. Your teeth is not designed for meat. We'll give you special teeth. Don't worry. We'll design special tools for that. So in this way, they still try to deviate from the path. The human being is endowed with 2 canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of foodstuff offered to Lord Krishna, Lord Shri Krishna. And the Lord accepts foodstuff from the categories of leaves, flowers, and fruits, etc. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. As prescribed by Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not eat the animals to derive so-called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating thorns. A person who wants to enjoy family life or worldly life of so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. So we cover the dog, working for a master, faithfully working for master and getting remnants, crumbs. A hog eating whatever we want, no discrimination eating. And now camel wants to enjoy unrestrictedly. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulation, just to make the best use of a bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there is not much more to be explained in this connection. The camel also sucks its own blood while chewing thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cuts the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns mixed with the fresh blood creates a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys the thorn-eating business with false pleasure. Similarly, the great business magnates, industrialists, who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means, eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. Therefore, the Bhagavatam has situated these diseased fellows along with the camels. So camels, unfortunately, they love thorns, and they engage in this way, causing harm to themselves but thinking it's nice. So similarly, when civilization is focused on sex life and endeavor to exploit sex and sexual intercourse, this is like camel life, wasting of energy, wasting of resources. Srila Prabhupada one time was in Vrindavan, and they were walking just at the border of Rajasthan, Vrindavan, and there were some camels that came in from Rajasthan, and at one place the camels were eating thorns, and Prabhupada pointed, see, the camels, they're eating thorns, just like grihastas. So then, just like grihastas exploiting sex pleasure, sex life. So then the one devotee was there, and the one devotee said, but Prabhupada, you mean Griyamedi? And Prabhupada said, no. For you, Griyamedi. For the sannyasi, Grihasta. Because there are different ashrams. So for the sannyas ashram, even Grihasta life is abominable. Right? That means sex life is abominable. Any form of pleasure in Grihasta life is abominable for the sannyasi. Sannyasi is meant to be simple, austere, renounced. For the Grihasta, then Griyamedi life is abominable, exploiting sex life, etc. Now, Srila Prabhupada is guided in his instructions of even for Grihasta. The Griyamedi is exploiting sex life, and therefore there's the institution of marriage, so that the Grihastha can get married to one person and then have regulated sex life. Otherwise, it is illicit connection. But Prabhupada would also make the point that even regulated sex life within marriage, that is also illicit. Because the only enjoyer is Krishna. So whether it's within marriage or outside marriage, it's all illicit. Because Krishna is the only enjoyer. And sex life is meant to become zero for everyone, even for the Grihastha, even for the Grihastha devotee. Why? Because sex life brings one to the gross platform of identification, of identifying I'm male or female. And with this lower form of identification, it brings you on the bodily concept of life. Also, seminal fluid is very, very powerful. When the Prabhupada talks about sucking one's own blood. So when one disseminates seminal fluid, blood is transformed into seminal fluid. And many of the nutrients is transformed into seminal fluid. So seminal fluid is very powerful energy. And in the Vedic system, seminal fluid is retained and then raised. So it gives, when one preserves seminal fluid, it gives one greater spiritual potency, vitality, memory, and therefore it's conducive for spiritual life. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was Naishtika Brahmachari, never wasted a single drop of seminal fluid. Materialist, for them, sex life, enjoyment. That's how they, work hard and then get some sex pleasure in the evening. This is materialistic life. So we don't want to be like the camels. The ass is an animal we celebrated as the greatest fool. Even amongst animals, the ass works very hard and carries burden of the maximum weight without making profit for itself. Poor animal. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman, whose social position is not very respectable. And the special qualification of the ass is that it is very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex. Yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A hand-packed husband, a hand-packed man is compared, therefore, to an ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving tela and rickshaws. And the so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged human being in the work of an ass. The laborers in great factories and workshops are also engaged in such burdensome work. And after working hard during the day, the poor laborer has to be again kicked by the fair sex, not only for sex enjoyment, but also for so many household affairs. So this is the reality. Exploited civilization, working hard and just getting a little pleasure. And you find more and more in the material world, at least in previous time, there was job security. Now there's not even job security. So people are even now worried about working, getting income. With AI coming in, people are worried. So this is all the play of the material energy. So Srimad Bhagavatam, categorization of the common man without any spiritual enlightenment into the society of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses is not at all an exaggeration. Now, one thing we need to note here is this is harsh, but it's the truth. And as we said, there's the sword and there's the compassion. One time, Srila Prabhupada was driving. It was early hours of the morning. People are going to work. And the servant was next to Srila Prabhupada, sitting next to Prabhupada, and they're driving. Prabhupada was looking outside. The devotee was looking outside, and the devotee said, "Oh, Prabhupada, just see all these people like hogs, dogs, camel, and asses, going to work." And then he looked at Prabhupada and saw Prabhupada tearing. So Prabhupada also saw these hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. But Prabhupada felt compassion for them. So yes, this is the reality, but at the same time, we want to be compassionate. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that is not very flattering. The Bhagavatam openly declares that although a person may be a great leader of such dogs and hogs disguised as men, if he has no taste for being enlightened in the science of Krishna, such a leader is also an animal and nothing more. He may be designated as a powerful, strong animal or big animal, but in the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is never given a place in the category of man on account of his theistic temperament. On account of his atheistic temperament. Or in other words, such godless leaders of dogs and hog-like men are bigger animals with qualities of animals in greater proportion. So if you're godless, you're a big animal. As Prabhupada says, polished animals. Because human beings, and that's why you'll see Manu Samhita, if you look at the qualities of a human being, which are described in Manu Samhita, even in the Bhagavatam, we're going to hear the duties of a human being, the qualities of a human being, the behavior of human is very exalted, very, very exalted. And that's not even spiritually, that's not even like spiritually inclined. They're just human being. What to talk about devotees? What to talk about those who are spiritually elevated? So as devotees, we have a very, very grave responsibility to try to imbibe this knowledge and then realize and mold our life according to these values. Human life is meant for earning value. Human life is meant for earning values, not for earning valuables. It's values. This life is called Arthadam, or that which can deliver values, not a life that can deliver valuables. And what is the greatest value of life? It is to return home back to Godhead, as indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 1850. One's selfishness must be aimed at the point of going back to Godhead. The S does not know his self-interest, and it works very hard for others only. A person who works very hard for others only, forgetting his personal interests available in the human form of life, is compared to an ass. The Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is said, Ashitim Chatuраschaiva Laksham Tan Jiva Jatishu Brahma Di Purushai Prapyam Manusyam Janma Pariyayat Tad Apya Abalatam Jata Tesham Atma Binaninam Vara Kanam Anashritya Govinda Charana Dhyayan. The human life is so important that even the demigods in the higher planets sometimes aspire for human body on the earth, because in the human body only can one easily go back to Godhead. In spite of having obtained such an important body, if one does not re-establish his lost relationship with Govinda, Lord Krishna, he is certainly a fool who has forgotten his self-interest. This human form of material body is obtained by a gradual process of evolution to one body from another in the cycle of 8.4 million varieties of life. And the poor man, forgetting this importance of his own interest, involves himself in so many illusory engagements for uplifting the position of others as a leader of political emancipation and economic development. There is no harm in trying for political emancipation or economic development, but one should not forget the real aim of life. All such philanthropic activities must be dovetailed to returning to Godhead. One who does not know this is compared to an ass who works only for others without their or his own welfare in mind. Vantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Prabhupada ki jai. So we do not want to be hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. And yes, unfortunately, we have been doctrinated in a system that has possibly conditioned us to some degree or other in these aspects. And now, with the glory of Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, his association, his contribution to human society, he is taking everyone out of the hog, dog, camel, and asses culture and giving them the greatest, the highest welfare activity, the highest destination of going back to Godhead. Prabhupada is giving us the pathway, he's giving us the direction, he's giving us the blueprint, he's giving us the process, he's giving us the blessings, everything, so that we can become free from the mentality of hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, from the exploitation of being hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, and by coming and getting a human form of life that is filled with spiritual values of the highest caliber of realizing our lost relationship with Krishna, and then achieving our eternal happiness in eternal service to Krishna. This is Srila Prabhupada's contribution to humanity, the greatest welfare work, Krishna consciousness. And we have a small part, we have an opportunity to play a small part in Srila Prabhupada's glorious, wonderful mission. And by playing a part in this mission, we will benefit, and we will be able to benefit those that come in contact with our lives. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions or comments? Anyone? You can type or you can unmute. Hemavati Radhika and Nalini Kanda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the beautiful class. So much to learn and contemplate on. Thank you for teaching us nicely, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yes. Lots to contemplate. So we can contemplate on these points for the whole week. And that's important, because when we contemplate on this, we start to digest. It goes in, it sinks. We are not meant to struggle for existence. It's not human life. Human life is not meant for struggling. Now, we are struggling, some more than others. But we need to realize it's not meant for struggling, and then we need to find solutions. Collectively, we need to find solutions. How to redirect human society, civilization. I'm affiliated with different groups across the globe. One group, they are building a whole infrastructure, a whole system with people on different frequency, different levels of evolution, spiritual evolution. And their focus is to help people out of financial struggle. Then I'm with a group of other individuals who are also on different levels of spiritual frequencies. And their goal is to help people out of physical illnesses. So, yes, we will need these types of support infrastructure to come out of this unfortunate dogs, camels, and asses doctrination. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada is giving us the philosophical input that is required so that we can think out of the box. We can think on a higher frequency and then see how we can facilitate, aid the golden age. And if we can't, at least, as Prabhupada says, make best use of the bad bargain. Okay, I'm caught up. So now let me, while I'm trapped, let me try to elevate my consciousness and make the best use of my current situation and then leave this world in a glorious way. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, thank you for sharing my many nice points. That we must be wary of how things dovetail and not be sidetracked. Yes. Also, Srila Prabhupada emphasizing that anyone can become perfect by following the bhakti path as prescribed, giving hope to all of us. Yes. And also understanding who, when, and what to give in charity, when, and the result of those. Nice to know and direct us accordingly. Yes. So we want to really keep these points in mind as we apply. And yes, we may forget. When I forget, this is the nature of conditional life. But that's why we need association to remind us. We need association with the Bhaktivedanta purports to remind us. We need regular hearing and chanting to remind us. And in this way, the more I'm reminded, eventually it becomes part of my life and part of my culture, where I don't need to be reminded because it's my culture. So that's the whole idea of the Krishna conscious movement, molding society, molding each of us slowly but surely to revive the golden age. And in this way, perfect our life. Thank you very much for everyone's association. We will conclude this chapter next week and continue further associating with the Bhagavatam. Vantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai.